So taking a moment and closing your eyes. And if you're here and you're in support of your partner or your daughter, or because your mother said so, or whatever other reason you're here, you're still here, and there's something in this for you. So taking some deep breaths and allowing yourself to fully settle to being here and connecting to the why you're here. What is it that you want for yourself? So energy follows intention, so we always work with intention. Having clarity on your intention. And taking a deep breath and just feeling the vibration of that intention in your body. How that feels in your body. Maybe there's some nervousness, or maybe there's some excitement, curiosity. Whatever is there. And whatever physical sensations, emotions, thoughts are there, it's okay. I'd like to welcome you all, those who are here in women's bodies, which are just the majority of you from what I can see, but who knows, we'll be watching the replay one day somewhere. Those who are in men's bodies, those who are here as a couple, those who are here and have already concluded their cycle, they don't bleed anymore for whatever reason. Those who are young, the young adults, women and men, young adults who maybe have just started having sex or recently started bleeding, all of you are welcome. And what I'm going to be sharing about over the next hour or so is an accumulation of information and experiences over a decade or more. It's not something that I read in a book or got it from one source. It's an accumulation. And I felt that with this new moon is tomorrow, and I'll explain the importance of the relationship between menstrual blood and new moon, that it's time that we let go of the shame, and we let go of the secrecy, and we let go of the embarrassment or anything else that might be the menstrual blood and our menstrual time might be surrounded by, because it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve those in women's bodies. It doesn't serve the next generations. It doesn't serve couples. It doesn't serve those in men's bodies. It certainly doesn't serve the planet. It serves no one. So it's time for this to go. It's been time. It's overdue, actually. So this is my motivation for doing this video and having this masterclass with you. There will be time at the end to share. There will be time if something has really moved you, or there's something you'd like to share from your experiences, or ask any questions. But for now, I'm just going to go through a bunch of information and present that, share that with you, and then the space will be open where you can unmute yourself or you can type in a message. Now, there's one disclaimer I would like to make at this point. And I will remind you about it a few times during the masterclass. And that is to stay open. Some of the things that I'm going to share about might seem controversial or shocking. You might have a particular reaction to them. That's fine. It's okay. There's no right and wrong, and that only if you're spiritually advanced and if you really are absolutely 100% and 110% fine with menstrual blood and all of that, and that you're welcome to be in this call. No, that's not the case. And I know there's some of you here who have been working in ritual with your menstrual blood, and some of you who have never ever even touched it or thought about it, and the full range in between. And for those in men's bodies, ones that might have discomfort or even disgust around menstrual blood, and others who are fascinated or want to come into closer honoring with it, or ones who already are in that relationship with menstrual blood. So it's a huge range. So I'm going to start from 0 and go to 100. I'm going to give you the full thing. So if some of this is stuff you've already heard, be medicine. Like, vibrate out to everybody else who's watching live or in replay. But yeah, this is the world we want to live in. Absolutely. And if this is new or shocking or controversial, then I just ask you to stay open-minded and stay with us, stay connected, stay till the end. And whenever you feel that, whenever there might be a moment of, then my suggestion is to just ask yourself, like a 5-year-old exploring, why? Why am I having this kind of reaction? Okay, what conditioning have I received? What beliefs do I carry, or what experiences have I had that lead me to feel this way? And do they serve me? Does it serve me to continue having this kind of reaction? And is it true? Does it pass the test, the litmus test of, is it a fact, or was it some bullshit that was handed down and has been handed down generation after generation after generation, that, well, as we're coming into a threshold for humanity and shifting in so many incredible ways, we don't need to carry that over the threshold, and we can let that go. Now, this isn't meant to convince you of that, but it's meant to encourage you to ask that question. So that's my suggestion. Stay with us, stay till the end, and if anything feels, ooh, then just ask, okay, what beliefs am I holding? Do they serve me? Are they true? Are they mine? Do I want to keep carrying them? And if yes, feel free. And if not, here's your invitation. This is the perfect time. New moon, new beginnings. Okay, so that's the disclaimer. And now we begin with the details of it. So the masterclass is called Blood Mysteries. So actually there shouldn't be mysteries, right? Because it should be information that we all know about. But nobody taught us this in school. And most likely we didn't get this information from our parents or our siblings or our friends or our teachers or our lovers. I mean, some of us have been fortunate, and we have, but most of us haven't. So that's why it's still mysteries. But I yearn for the day where this is just normal. And part of doing this video and having it open to everyone, and I wanted to make sure that it was open to everybody, anyone who was interested, sincerely interested, is because this is normal. How we live is not normal. How we regard menstrual blood is not normal. It's abnormal. So, yeah. Okay, so menstrual blood. Most of us have, okay, first let's do a check-in. So take a moment, close your own eyes. And connect to your first memory around menstrual blood. And maybe when you first started bleeding, if you're in a woman's body, or maybe some relative, mother, sister, or lover. And maybe you had no idea what it was and you couldn't understand. And yeah, it was absolutely strange and foreign. Or maybe you knew and you were waiting and anticipating. Maybe it was shocking. Maybe it was like, oh yes, finally. Or just very curious about it. Just connect to the first time you were exposed to menstrual blood or menstrual time, and what your emotion and your memory of it, what imprint did it leave in your body, in your psyche. So just take another minute for that. Okay. So whatever that was, it probably has played some significant role in your experience with the cycle, with menstrual blood since then. There was somebody who typed in that her first thought was that it was very special and made her a woman, but then it was something that she had to hide, right? The secrecy around this, absolutely. So, menstrual blood. Most of us are on the good side, on the best end, is that, okay, now I have to kind of worry about this or be concerned that I need to, be alert that this is going to happen to me if you're in a woman's body. And for some of us, there's been also shame in some cultures and some religions. Certainly, it is a time where a woman is considered untouchable. She should not enter into places of worship. She should not maybe be involved in cooking or other household activities. Maybe that it's a time where she should not really be involved with, if in later years, be involved with men in sexuality. Also, there's the whole reaction of poor you. Oh, you're, and my mother still does this. I'm 44 and I've been bleeding since I was 9. So I've been bleeding 35 years now. And my mother, when I tell her that, okay, it's my first day, and that's usually, the more impactful day, that, oh, honey, oh, poor you, oh. And it's like, poor me? No, there's nothing poor me about it. But there's this reaction, yeah? So there's people responding now on the chat that hiding it, beautiful but hiding it, effortless and beautiful, losing of innocence, the carefreeness and joyful time of childhood, absolutely, and the poor you, now that the hardship begins. Not only does the hardship begin, but in some cultures, and many in the West, it's also, now you can get pregnant. So now you got to watch out. So now it's a burden. You may stain yourself or you may get pregnant. And both at, that teenage age might be of equal distressing impact. Yeah, so this is one of the things that you would fear. Okay, so Jim, I went to an all-boys private school and we had very little info about menstruation, yes. I have a vague memory of our female biology teacher telling us that women bleed every month and the general reaction was, ew, that's gross. Right, and that's often somebody in a woman's body's reaction also, that, ew, like, you're kidding me, the blood's gonna come out between my legs. Like, that just somehow isn't right. Another sharing, I felt a lot of shame since my mom was uneasy about telling me. Of course, yes, and that generation to generation imprint. And visualizing a stained back of pants or skirt, if you're in a man's body, or blood stain. And what happens in your body? If you're in a man's body or a woman's body, what happens in your body when you see that in your inner world? Okay, so most of us, that was a picture I had, most of us have some kind of shame around that, some kind of fear around that, or some kind of kind of reaction around that, contraction, shame, disgust. Yeah, that's normal. So why would that blood create such a reaction? Yeah, because of the secrecy, terror, panic, yes, all those reactions, absolutely. So yes, contraction, thank you. So menstrual blood, if we take away all that conditioning, that it's it's meant to be secret or hidden, or that there's some kind of shaming around it. If we actually connect to what the truth is about menstrual blood, it is the most sacred offering a woman's body has, period, in material form. Menstrual blood is meant to feed, to nurture, to host life. It is the most potent blood that we have. It isn't dirty. How can anything dirty have created and housed and nurtured a zygote into a fetus, into a baby? And just reflect, if it was not for that menstrual blood, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. None of us would be here. It is thanks to that menstrual blood that creates the nest, in the uterus, in the womb, that life, human life, can be had, period. Now, if we look at it that way, what could be more sacred? What could be more divine? What could be closer to God than the creation of life and the sustaining of life? Nothing. Nothing. In a woman's body. It's not to compare to men's bodies. I'm just referring to women's bodies. So somewhere along the line, this got switched in our beliefs and in the way we treat and refer to menstrual blood. So menstrual blood, it is potent. It is energetically potent. It is physically potent. It is filled with nutrients and minerals, vitamins, everything to create life. Absolutely potent. Okay, so it's not dirty. Point made. It is not dirty. And it's not that I need to be cleansed, that a woman's body, a woman's womb needs to be cleansed, and that's why we bleed once a month. We bleed once a month because we are made to procreate, and if there isn't a fertilization and an implementation of that zygote, the sperm and the egg meeting, then that nest sheds. That's why we bleed, but not because our wombs need cleansing. That's not why we bleed. So just to be very, very clear about that with those who are watching, what is menstrual blood? And it's the way, what does it represent? It represents our connection. Thank you, Tristan. It represents our connection to the feminine, to the most sacred and divine aspects of the feminine, whether it's in men's bodies or women's bodies. It's the feminine. I'm not talking about just women here. I'm talking about the feminine. It's time we all reclaim the feminine, no matter what body you're in. And to the earth, to nature itself. One of the phrases that I use is blood of my womb, blood of the earth. And this is something also those in men's bodies can connect to, and I will get to that. So blood of my womb, blood of the earth, that the same blood creates life, or the representation of this blood. Of course, the earth is not bleeding in the sense that we understand blood, but of course the earth has its own veins and its own energy flowing through those veins, its version of blood. Okay, so many of us are taught to pop a pill, put in a tampon, or use a pad, and move on as life as usual, business as usual. This dishonors our true cycle, because the masculine way is linear. You know, my masculine sense of time is linear. It doesn't matter if you're in a woman's body or a man's body. If you're connecting to the masculine way of moving through life, it is more linear. If you're connecting to the feminine way, whether you're in a man's body or a woman's body, it is cyclical. As soon as we have our first cycle, our first menstrual cycle, we enter into the cyclical stages of nature and life. So there is just a circle, and then when that comes full circle, another cycle, and that comes full circle, and another cycle, and like this cyclical. This is how the seasons are. Yeah. After we have fall, we have winter, and eventually we come back to winter, and like this cyclical. And also the moon, and also the sun. The nature's rhythm is more feminine. It's cyclical, spiral. So women were considered the keepers of time originally. In ancient times, we were considered the keepers of time, not a watch time. I don't have a watch. I'm looking around. I don't have a watch. Not seconds and minutes and this kind of precision, more linear time, but in terms of rhythms of time and keepers of time, because of our menstrual cycle, because of what our wombs do. And this is something absolutely to be revered and to be honored and to be reclaimed. Okay, so what happens when a woman is moving towards her bleeding time? This is important for those in men's bodies who want to understand the feminine in women's bodies more, because those in men's bodies, although you do have a feminine, you don't have the hormonal cycles. So if you want to understand what happens to your sister, your friends, your lovers, your mother, as she's nearing her menstrual cycle, here's the information. And also for those in women's bodies who are not aware of this. So our cycle has different stages, and those have different archetypes and different energies. And as we're approaching our bleeding time, our body knows that it's going to go through a small death. That shedding, the lining of the uterus is coming down, and that is a small death. That which was meant to be, that which could have been, not meant to be, but which could have been, that life that could have been made, was no longer, didn't happen. And so that lining was no longer useful. And so we shed it. And that's a small death of what didn't happen. And in that process, our bodies, our emotional bodies, our physical bodies, sensations, go through a small death. And that can feel agitated. So this famous PMS, premenstrual syndrome, the famous bitchiness, or that kind of exaggerated versions of what it can be, or for some people it is very true, that during this time it can be very challenging emotionally for some of those of us in women's bodies. So just to realize that it's because you're going through a small death, and it's an invitation of letting go. And so this is the time where more of the archetype of Kali might come in, and there might be more destructive, but not to destroy. And this is where we go wrong often, those in women's bodies. So I just want to signal that out. As we approach our bleeding, we tend to use that energy outwards. And we may take it out on our partners or our friends or our family or whoever's around. And actually it's meant to be an arrow that points in, a sword, Kali's sword that points in and says, what needs to go? What needs to be mourned? What has died? What hasn't had the chance to live or to come to manifestation? Or what doesn't serve you? What aspects of your life isn't serving you? It's time to let it go. And that's what the agitation is about. So it's an invitation to a small death. Now, some women get very sexually aroused during this time. So just before the bleed, because there's so much energy. Yeah, there's so much energy. And so what happens when you're bleeding is your hormones start to plummet. But there's this small death thing happening. And so you might feel really sexually aroused. And so some women really go for especially explosive clitoral orgasms during this time. as a way of releasing energy. So I just want to give a heads up about that to those in women's bodies, that there's nothing wrong with having sex during this time, but if you're using it as a way of releasing your pent-up energy, instead of using that energy as a Kali's sword that points in to look at what needs to go or what needs to die, what needs to be mourned, what needs to be grieved, then you're missing a huge opportunity. Yeah. So it's a gift that your womb is giving you. And those in men's bodies, hopefully this helps you understand a little bit more about what's happening with your partner or your female friends, if you've noticed something like this happening. So all that is happening so you can let go and surrender. As our hormones plummet and as we go into our bleeding time, we go into a deep surrender and letting go. And in that letting go, there's a lot of going inwards. This is connected to the new moon. It's the darkest nights. It's also connected to the winter month, where things go underground. And so a woman's energy during her bleeding time might be really of a going inward. Yeah, a going inward. So it's not that she doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody else. And maybe if she has the kind of job where she can't, or the kind of lifestyle where she can't really take time for herself during this time, she may not even notice that this is happening. I didn't for decades. But once you start picking up the messages from your body, you realize, okay, my body wants to rest. There's a stillness, and there's a moving inward, and there's an incredible sense of sensitivity. So heightened sensitivity, emotionally, maybe even audio, maybe smell, taste, touch. There's incredibly heightened, much more sensitivity during this time, generally speaking, for most women. Most of us in women's bodies. So this is why the red tents were originally created. So I want to bring that in now. That term red tent is commonly used now to refer to women's gatherings or things like that. But originally it was a place, the reason why they're red is because women bled together. Women who were bleeding went and stayed there overnight, a few days, so that they were not influenced by the energies, because they're so sensitive, by the energies around them. And so they could relax and let go and not have to attend to whatever other duties they would otherwise in their daily life have to attend to. So it was a gift. It wasn't like, let me isolate, let us isolate the bleeding women, they're wrong, they're bad. No, it was actually for their, not protection, but for their benefit, for their use, so that they could be amongst each other in that resonance and not be absorbing whatever else was moving around, emotions or other things. Now, is it okay to have sex during this time? Somebody wrote and asked. So yes, I remember a Qigong, was she a Qigong? No. A teacher saying once that women should not have sex during this time, and I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. So there is no reason why you can't. There may be reasons why you don't want to. Okay, so if many women during this time feel like they don't want to, it's just a low energy, and it's about connecting to nature, connecting to the ethers, connecting to spirit realm, receiving messages, going into meditation, going for walks, or being with a forest or the water. It's very different how every individual woman, and even the same woman at different times in her life, or even different times of the year while she's in the bleeding stage of her cycle, may react. But is it okay? Yes, it's okay. And it's also okay if you don't want to. Some suggestions are you might want to be on top so that you have more say, or you have more leverage on how fast or how deep or how intense, because maybe you're very sore, or there's a lot of sensitivity there. That's totally up to you. During this time, because of the increased sensitivity, the lovemaking can be incredible, but different. Different. In different stages of our menstrual cycle, our sexuality is different if we pay attention. So during this stage, it might be, because of the increased sensitivity, more etheric, or just a very light touch can be so much. Or maybe it's more, esoteric, maybe more spiritual, that you're getting messages, and this sexuality is part of it, but it's more like a channeling or oracle that can freak some men out sometimes, or even those in women's bodies when that starts to happen, or you get visions. It's normal. It's normal. There's nothing extraordinary about it, and if it doesn't happen, that's also okay. It's not, it needs to happen, but it's normal that it would happen. So, and also during this time to be gentle with your it's more usually a time where a woman wants to enjoy more a softer, slower, more gentle, more intimate, more almost dissolving, because of the stage she's in, type of sexuality. Yeah. And also the breast might be quite sore, aching. So yeah, it's just different. It's just different. Yeah, okay, so that's about the sexuality during the menstrual cycle. Sense of hibernation, I can relate to this. Which cultures had red tents? Different cultures had red tents, but they didn't call them red tents, and that's a more of a kind of new agey or catch-all phrase. But native cultures in the Americas and Northern America and Middle East, for sure, had them. I've not done a research on which cultures did and didn't to say specifically, but yeah, it was used in different places. Okay. I will get back to those questions. I just want to move on with more information, so just get through that. Okay, so the small death, the red tents, and the sexuality. I'm just looking at my notes of the things that I want to cover, that I said I was going to cover. Okay, so what do you do if you want to connect to your cycle as something sacred? If you want to connect to your blood as something sacred? If you're in a man's body and you want to support your partner or your friends to do so, what do you do? So first of all, do not flush your blood down the toilet. I just got done explaining how sacred and amazing our menstrual blood is. And so flushing it down the toilet, it seems like the most absurd and almost offensive thing you could do to your blood. Now, of course, this isn't to shame anybody. I flushed my blood down the toilet. Like I said, I've been bleeding since I was 9. I'm 44. So at least, until some years ago, I was still flushing my blood down the toilet. So at least 5-6 years ago, I was still flushing my blood down the toilet. I didn't know any better. So, okay, that's done. But from now, you know better. So flushing blood down the toilet, for God's sake, no. So how do you do it? First of all, I want to say about tampons and pads. They have chemicals, most of them. So at least go organic. Yes. At least go organic, bio, whatever the term is, natural. My standard is, if I can't put it in these lips, I shouldn't put it in those lips. It's a good rule to live by, in my opinion. But especially, I'm already, like, it shouldn't go on my skin if I can't eat it. But certainly it doesn't go in my sacred place, in my yoni. Definitely not. So if you're okay with whatever, you get one of those tampons that you want to buy, a bio or whatever, and you're okay chewing it, passes the test. If not, what other options do you have? Okay, so there are cotton kind of materials of pads that are made, that are very beautifully made and decorated, and you can use them and then wash them. They absorb, and then you wash them and rinse them, and you can reuse them. So they're great for the environment, and they don't leave chemicals behind in your yoni or around your yoni. So that's one option. Another option, there's this underwear. It's like, wow, when I heard about this a couple of years ago, this underwear that absorbs blood, so you don't have to put anything, like not even a pad, nothing, not even a moon cup, nothing, and you just bleed, and it absorbs the blood, and then you can just, again, wash that. So it's like leak proof and all that stuff. So that's great. It's like as if you were just allowing your bleed to flow. And another option is a moon cup. So I have one here. I just want to show for those women, or also those men who have no idea what this is. And again, there's people joining from all over the world. So some of us are very used to this, and others are like, huh? So a moon cup, okay, it has a little thing here that I can hold, and hold it like that. And this goes at your cervix. Now, one of the great benefits of using a moon cup is that you will for sure know where your cervix is. So most of us think that, well, we can't touch our cervix. Absolutely, you can touch your cervix, and the best position to do so is on the toilet, sitting on the toilet. So this is great side effect for using a moon cup. You put it in, you fold it, put it in, and then you release it, and the cervix, this circles your cervix, and the blood drips slowly into your moon cup. Then you squeeze it to pull it out, and then you have your blood right here, just as is. So moon cup, it depends where you live. You probably can order it. If in no other way, you can probably order it through Amazon. I know for sure you can order it from Amazon. It just depends if you can get Amazon delivery. For here in Finland, where I live, you can buy it in grocery stores. I know that that's not the case for many countries, and there might be specialty shops or yoga shops or women's centers or other places that you can go, or you just Google moon cup or menstrual cup, and there's a bunch of brands you can choose from. And so, okay, I'll get back to questions. I see a few questions popping up. I'll get back to them. Thank you. Okay, so moon cup. All right, now once you have access to your blood, what do you do with it? Right, that's the question that was just typed in. What do we do with our blood in our moon cup? Right, if you're not flushing it down, what are you doing with it, right? Okay, yes, so here we go. This is the great stuff now. We're getting to it. So one of the things you can enter into is sacred reciprocity. Reciprocity of giving and receiving, offering and receiving, reciprocity, sacred reciprocity with nature. Okay, so you can, when you have your blood in your moon cup, you can offer your blood to a plant in your home. Okay, in your home, you can feed your plants, where you have maybe a herb garden or a vegetable garden or a favorite tree, or it doesn't have to be a favorite tree, but some tree, plant, bush. You can offer it to nature. So you can enter in sacred reciprocity with nature. Again, blood of my womb and blood of the earth. So I am made of earth. I am made of these elements. If I'm in a woman's body, I have blood that I can offer back. And this blood was supposed to sustain life, right? This blood was made to nourish the formation of a human being. So it didn't get a chance to do that, but it can still offer life. It can still be life affirming and life sustaining. So you can do an experiment. What happens if you dedicate your blood just to one plant and see how that plant flowers and flourishes. I know here in Finland we go through a winter where there isn't much sun or no sun for some months, and so those are the times where I offer my blood a lot to the plants, because they start looking very sad and withering, and I'm like, you guys stay strong, here you go, yeah. So entering in that connection with nature. And also that if you are doing this with herbs or a garden, and it's produce or some kind of veggies or something, you can eat those herbs and veggies without any problem. And that's an incredible experience also, that these have been fed by life-affirming blood that comes through my body. So it's an incredibly powerful experience. Okay, there's some comments now. I have given my blood to one plant for 3 months and it started growing new branches and leaves. Yes, great, wonderful. Okay, back to moon cups. Okay, cervix. Okay, we'll come back. All right. So another thing you can do is just bleed directly onto the earth. So you don't even have to have a moon cup like that you're pointing out. Now, of course, not everybody has access to nature in a way that they feel safe and comfortable to just squat or just sit and just bleed. But this is also part of the offering and the sacred reciprocity of bleeding straight onto the earth itself, and feeling that flow, that I'm in that flow of the cycle of nature and the cycle of life. And it's an incredibly empowering experience to do that with earth, with a place on earth where you can just sit, where you can just squat and bleed. But again, not everybody has access to that. That's okay. But you can everybody has access to some house plant. If not, then go and buy one just for the occasion of being able to offer your blood to it. Okay, what else can you do with your blood? You can, okay, this blood was meant to create and sustain the creation of life. Okay, so creativity, art. So this is something those in men's bodies also can get involved in if you're feeling so called. And again, if I start saying things and you start being like, right? So just check with yourself. What are my beliefs? What am I holding on to? What has been passed down to me? Does it serve me? Do I want to keep it or not? And there's no right and wrong. Perfectly fine. So art. So you can use your hands. Yeah, and like finger painting. Yeah, so whatever, on a canvas or on a piece of paper or whatever you have, and finger paint with your blood. And also you can finger paint on yourself. Yeah, this is something that some women really enjoy to do, is to just create art on their bodies with blood. And if you're creating that art somewhere else, not on your body, you can also use a brush, a paintbrush. And there's been some beautiful examples that I have seen of women's menstrual blood art pieces. And I don't know, I'm feeling the urge right now to ask all of you who are watching and who want to submit, if you want to accept this challenge, and also those in men's bodies, if you have a friend or somebody that you have access to their menstrual blood, to create something. It doesn't matter. It's not we're not asking or inviting Picasso to join us or Van Gogh. Just whatever creativity comes from this, which was meant to create and sustain life. So yeah, if you want to take that challenge, it's official. Please submit it to your next bleed. That would be amazing. I would love to see it and get some collage going from all of those examples. This is a picture of a woman who obviously enjoys very much painting herself, anointing herself with blood. Yes. And so just take a moment and reflect how that makes you feel. Okay, what reaction there is inside of you when you see this picture. I've been wanting to cover myself with earth, and I think this may be the way to do it. Yeah, do a mix of earth and blood. That would be really amazing. Orgasmic feeling while looking at it. Okay, that's fabulous. Which, yes, empowered. Yes, deep rooted in earth power. Fear, yes. There was also anyone else feeling freaked out at the full screen bit. Exit full screen. Okay. So there'll be a mix of responses and reaction. Yeah, never thought about it. Intrigued, right? So there's like a mix. And if that does freak you out, then just to recognize why that freaks you out. And is that something that you want to hold on to, basically? Okay, so creativity, painting yourself, painting a beautiful, because it is, not because anybody else has to say so, art piece with your own blood, whatever feels right. Okay, we keep going. I paint my face, but maybe next time to pour my blood straight from my moon cup on me. See, yes, now we start getting some kind of encouragement. Okay, very expressive, yeah. I feel nothing, okay. For the painting, it should be collected bigger amounts of it. Yeah, and you know, I mean, if a full cup, you'd be amazed at how much. But yeah, it seems like she had more to work with in that picture for sure. Simply beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So, okay, now moving into ritual. This is something else you can do to embrace the sacredness and potency. Now there's going to be several components of ritual here, and I just want to say, if you're not into ritual, it's totally fine. So ritual doesn't mean that you need to know some secret mantras and have incense burning and candles going and be wearing velvet and, you know, whatever the stereotype of ritual is. Ritual is when you bring the sacred into something. It's already there, but you're acknowledging it. You're acknowledging what is already there, divinity in matter, and that is the magic of it. And no props are needed for that. And if you're into props and you're into the whole, you know, getting dressed up or having the whole ambiance of it, great, wonderful, get into it. But it's not needed. So you can go into ritual just as is. Or you don't have to use the word ritual at all. Substitute the word ritual for whatever makes you feel more comfortable, and keep going with us, keep journeying with us. So you can create an elixir. Ta-da! So this is an elixir of my blood, my menstrual blood. This is what's called in English a vial. It's that kind that you squeeze. Yeah, and then you get drops. Yeah, you can see that, I think. Yes. Okay, so this is an elixir, and with menstrual blood. So the recipe, if you're using menstrual blood, is half alcohol. So the alcohol should be some kind of strong 40 proof, like brandy or cognac, vodka, rum. I'm not a big drinker, so I'm going to stop my examples there, because basically the only thing I drink is wine. But yeah, so some hard alcohol, 50% of the bottle, or 1-to-1 ratio. And the other 50%, your menstrual blood. So straight from the cup, boom, like that, measure half and half. What's the expiration date? Not probably indefinitely, but a long time and out of the fridge. It doesn't, and mine is on my altar, it's not in the fridge, it's the alcohol that sustains it. So as long as it's a half-half, then this will remain usable. Now, what's the advantage of having a vial, having an elixir? Well, you can travel with it, right? So if you're just walking around with this, or you put it in some other container and seal it, and yeah, so if it's just fresh, it will start to rot soon enough, a day, 2. Depends on the temperature. But if it's in an elixir form, 50-50 with alcohol, then you can use it whenever you need it or want it, and you can travel with it. So for example, even if I have just check-in, in those good old days when I used to fly, right? Or even if I didn't have a check-in luggage and I just had carry-on, carry-on, not check-in, this passes because it's 20 ml, and you can find 15 ml, and you can find 10 ml, you can find smaller vials even. So it totally passes through as liquids, not a problem. Yes, we'll get to what we use it for. But first I want to explain about why you would want to have wine, is so that you can travel with it and you can have access to it whenever you want. Now, what if you don't bleed anymore? Or you're in a man's body and you want to connect with this cyclical way and with nature and things like that. Okay, so you make an elixir without menstrual blood. Simple. Again, we go back to blood of the earth, blood of my womb, or blood of my womb, blood of the earth. So what are some examples of earth's bounty, right? And so you can get really creative and use all kinds of herbs. You can use berries, wine, red wine. You can, of course, it still will need some alcohol, because if you're using natural things, then they will also start to rot. But you don't need as hard of an alcohol if it's not blood. But yeah, wine and some hard alcohol you can use, and berries and herbs, and you can take stones or crystals and grind them and use their powder, or even pieces, bark, sap. Right now, springtime, birch. In the northern countries, there's the sap of the birch, or other saps, the blood from trees. It's called sap. I don't know if you don't know the word in English. So it's the sticky stuff that comes out of trees. So sap, you can use all kinds of things you can use to create an elixir. And get creative, get imaginative, and vibrate with this is of the earth. And then if you want to add a piece of you, you can just prick your finger with a needle, a little prick, and squeeze a few drops of your own finger blood into your vial. And that has then the mix between you and earth. And then you can use it in ritual, just as if it was menstrual blood. And of course, it is different, but it doesn't mean you can't engage in those kinds of rituals. Okay, so that's a vial that's the elixir without blood and the elixir with blood. Now, what do you do with it, right? So that was a question that came in. Thank you for your patience. What do you do with it? So many things. Okay, here we go. So, offering drops of this blood or this elixir is in places of power. Now, what does places of power mean? It means places that are significant to you. Maybe you grew up there, or maybe it's a place that you feel at home, or it feels like your oasis, or your secret, safe, happy place, or whatever. Places of power to you that are significant to you, or places of power because people have gone there and worshipped there, or things have happened there, and which is generally agreed to and known. And so you go there and you make your offering. And so this is where we get more ritualistic. And those in men's bodies, you can of course join along in such offerings and do it for yourself, even if there's nobody in a woman's body who's there with you, to reclaim that ability to connect. Now, the resonance of our menstrual blood is incredibly powerful. So this is something that we need to keep in mind, that it is a form of connecting. So a way of connecting to land, to a place, to an energy, to a person. So you want to offer where you want to have a connection with. So maybe it's an offering like a thank you. Maybe it's an offering saying, call me back. I want to come back. And I don't know if that's possible or when or whatever, but call me back. And it may not even be in this life. Call me back. Or it may be a offering of not just gratitude, but of making amends, or this, like, I'm giving an offering because I know that I'm letting go of something, or that I'm making some wrongs right from a past life, or whatever. Okay, so you can use it in places of power, offering. I'll give a couple of examples which are very powerful, which are true to me, my experiences, and I'm sure others have their experiences. When I was first courting with my now husband, Timo, who is the reason why I live in Finland, I was traveling a lot. I had no intentions of being with somebody, and so I had a full schedule of places to be, which did not include Finland. And so we were saying goodbye, and I just looked at him and I was like, hold on. And I had started bleeding, and I ran to the bathroom and I wiped with a tissue paper. I didn't have a spare vial to offer, and I wasn't going to give mine. So I wiped my yoni, my bleeding yoni, with a tissue paper. And I came back and I gave him the tissue paper and I said, bury this on your land, and it will call me. I know it 100%. I'm 100% sure of that. It will call me. Do it. And he just looked at me like, okay. And he did, and he sent me a picture of the tree where he buried it. Now, I'm not suggesting you all put tissue paper into the earth, but it was the spontaneous moment of, I know my blood will call me. I know the potency of my blood. And if I know that and resonate with that, wherever it is, I can attune and align and be called there, physically or energetically. So that's one example. We're married now, and I live in Finland. So yeah, I'm not saying that will happen to you every time, but it is a powerful example. Another example is last December, we were in Egypt. A group of us was in Egypt, and we were at the Isis temple. And all of a sudden, very unexpectedly, I had a very strong past life experience of wrongs that needed to be made right. At the temple. And I had my vial with me, place of power. Of course, I'm carrying my vial with me. And I offered a drop there at the temple as my offering of the most sacred anything that I could possibly have of making amends for whatever I have done in the past. So that was another very powerful example of how you can offer. And again, this doesn't require you needing to squat or getting out a whole, you just, and that's it. And nobody has to know, nobody has to notice. And where do you offer it? Wherever you want. Let it touch the earth, maybe under a rock or some little crevice. You can also offer into water. And the flowing of waters and rivers. So these kinds of places of power, because they're important to you, or because people go there and make them places of power, and so they have a certain resonance. Okay, what else can you do? Anointing. Another English word that may be challenging to some. Anointing means to put on in some sacred way. So to bless in some sacred way. You can be anointed. Like a gesture like this is an anointment with some liquid, an oil or some elixir. And in our case, our menstrual blood or our non-menstrual blood, but equally powerful because of our intention, elixir. So you can anoint yourself. So there was a picture in the landing page where you all registered of me on my forehead with an anointment of my menstrual blood. So you can anoint yourself, and you can, the picture I showed before was a lot of smearing kind of painting, but you can also use sacred symbols that are of resonance to you. These symbols are meaningful to you. For whatever reason, it can, and again, you don't have to worry about being a magnificent artist. It's the essence of it that you are drawing onto yourself, and the power that it's backed by, because you're using menstrual blood or you're using this elixir of blood of the earth. That is an incredibly powerful thing to do. Now, of course, you can also do that with another. So for those who are in a couple, you can do that with your lover. You can anoint each other, draw sacred symbols or just a gesture of anointment with intention to each other. Or you can do it in sisterhood, whether it's in man's bodies or women's bodies, it doesn't matter, but you can do it in sisterhood. The only word of caution here I'd like to say is that, again, our menstrual blood is extremely potent. So you don't want to just, I mean, maybe you do, and you're okay that you want to be connected to every little portion of the earth everywhere, or that you want to be connected to every person also, and you don't mind having that connection, and that's beautiful because that's actually the truth and that already exists. But we can also practice discernment. Discernment means I know what's right for me. Now, I have a intelligence around, a wisdom around what's right for me. You can practice discernment around where you offer your blood or who you share it with or who you receive it from. So I just want to share a story here. Again, a personal story that, just to give you an example of the potency, I was working with a shaman some years ago, I don't know now, probably 6 years ago, yeah, at least. And she was giving me cycles of how to use certain crystal eggs in my yoni and so forth, and then she would read them and read the eggs and give me my next cycle. And so she was looking at my egg and she said, "You've been in a blood ritual, a menstrual blood ritual." And I was like, "No, I haven't." And she was like, "Yes, you have." "No, I haven't." And I was like, "No, I for sure haven't." And she's like, "Well, it says so right here, you have been." And I just sat there like trying to figure it out. And oh, yes, I have. And I had forgotten. There was nowhere in the forefront of my reality that I had, a few years before that even, been in a demo with one of my Neo-Tantra teachers in a women's group where we did an anointment. And I said to her, "Yes, but it was my blood. I didn't receive or touch anybody else's blood. I offered my blood to them." And she said, "Yes, but you were in a blood ritual, and now those connections remain." And I was like, how can you know this? I didn't even remember this. So our blood, and so I have no doubt, I have so many examples. I'm just giving you a few stories here of the potency and power of connection and of resonance okay, there's the minerals and all of that, the physical potency, but there's also the energetic potency of our menstrual blood. And I just, bang my head against a wall thinking, like, how can people believe that it's dirty or there's something to be ashamed of? My God, if you only knew. So please don't flush it. So, so just to have discernment on how you share it and to do it consciously, that's all. It's not about being afraid that where am I dropping my drops, and does this mean now I'm bound there for 7 lifetimes, or that I'm going to, have some kind of soul agreement with this person now for this and next lifetime or whatever. You don't have to freak out around that, but that it's done consciously, it's done with your intention, and it's from a loving presence. Yeah. So just to let you know how potent it is. Okay, wait, I want to show you a picture. This is a picture of me and Timo when we did an anointment. This was in Bolivia, where my mother's from, and we were in a very sacred place, and so we did an anointment in a very ritualistic and powerful place, an offering and an anointment with each other. So it's just to show you the picture of that, and and then we had fun with it. So you can also do an anointment like it's fun. Yeah. So here we were making stars and circles and moons and suns and just enjoying. Yeah. So you can enjoy those anointments like a 5-year-old will enjoy the creativity and the ritual between you and your lover, partner, friends, sisters, whoever you choose to share your blood with. Okay. Now, for couples or for lovers. Another way to go even deeper with that, other than the anointment, is to mix your menstrual blood with his semen. For those who are in opposite sex, one male body, one female body minimum required here. Or if you are in two male bodies, like if you're a partnership between two men and you want to enter into that kind of ritual, you can use the elixir that doesn't have blood. Or again, if you already finished your cycle, you're complete with your cycle for whatever reason, you can use again the elixir that's made out of the earth blood and mix it with semen. And that is a super potent ritual. Super, that's a lot of connection. So not to be taken lightly, again. And it's an incredible mix of creation, of manifestation, of potency, of the feminine and the masculine, of what creates life. It's super, super powerful to do that. You can put your mix into some kind of bowl or chalice like that there. So you see a little bit of blood there and some white. So that's our mix on a particular occasion. And you can, so the mix between semen and menstrual blood, and then offer it. So you put it into some kind of sacred container together, and then making your offering or anointing each other with that. That is a very powerful practice for those in couples. Okay, now the last thing. Yes, it mixes in sex during bleeding. Yes, I just got that comment, and I just want to say now the last thing. So because I want to get through the information, and then I'll look back to see what other questions there were, or if anybody has more sharings. What else can you do once you have your blood? What can you do with it? So you can drink it. So I've been saving that one for, we've gone incrementally, slowly, from offering in sacred reciprocity with nature, to creating art, to anointment, to ritual. And now we come to perhaps the part that is most challenging. And if it's not challenging for you, then great. Congratulations, wonderful, happy to hear it. But you can drink your blood. So if you're having a moment of like, did she really say that? Yes, she did. And if you're having moments of vampires, it's nothing like that. We've already discussed its potency physically and energetically. So there's no doubt around this. And so if this blood is worthy of sustaining life, if this blood is okay for a plant, if this blood has this amazing capacity to keep me connected to other living beings or to a place on the planet, if all those things, which we've already gone through, then are true, and you don't have to take my word for it, please experiment for yourself, then what would make me cringe about drinking it? Again, this is the moment where I invite you to just consider for yourself if there's a disgust or ew or what that's about. And you definitely don't have to drink your blood. So it's not that if you don't drink your blood, then you haven't made it to that level of spiritual awakening or whatever. And also if you're in a man's body, it's just another option that you have. So the question comes of how is that done? So the most common question that comes is straight, like neat, alcohol terms. Yeah, but you don't have to. So many women ask, well, can I mix it in with some orange juice or some, other kind of juice and kind of have it slowly, mix, and it'll make it easier. It reduces the smell and the taste. Sure you can. Of course you can. And most of those women that I've heard back from, ended up saying, yeah, actually it's better when you just do it neat, because yeah, like what's the point of dragging this thing out? And if you're wanting to mix it, then because otherwise you feel you can't do it, then again, the invitation is why? To just reflect on that for yourself, that I can't have just the blood. I can't just receive the blood. And those in men's bodies also, the invitation is for you also to, for with whoever you are very connected to taste the blood. So what are the baby steps? So I always give baby steps because we all need them. When I first heard about drinking blood, it took me at least another year from when I heard about it to actually do it. I was like, all right, that's good information. Good to know that's in the realm of possibilities. And I'm just going to leave that there until I need it. And so I was just like, woof. And I didn't go there for a year or maybe a little bit more. And then I felt like, okay, let me go there. Let me see what happens. So one is to smell it. So you can bring the cup to your nose, or the, you know, whatever container you have your blood in, and smell. And so this already, smell and taste are very related. So this will already give you it will already open a door. And then you can just take some onto your lip and just put some on your lip, and then that could be okay. And the rest goes to the plant, or you know, you want to make art or whatever you do with it, whatever you decide that you wanted to do with it. So those are the baby steps. And then maybe a little bit, and that's okay. Yeah. And then eventually you drink. For me, I do drink straight out of my menstrual cup. You know, others who are more into the ritualistic elements may have a, you know, they want to put it into a particular chalice or cup, or you know, do all kinds of things. You can of course also mix it in with honey and milk and cinnamon and herbs and all kinds of wonderful things. Yes. For me, I like the rawness of it personally. I want to keep it like as pure and raw, connected to nature, my nature and nature as possible. So I drink it straight. You can do so connecting to loving presence. You can offer a prayer. I always offer a prayer, and I always reconnect to blood of my womb and blood of the earth, and you know, however you develop this for yourself. So it's not just, okay, it's the same as flushing, then it's like I'm doing this unconsciously. But yes, I ingest my blood, and I've been doing so for at least 5 years, every cycle. You know, I need to make a new elixir, then I offer some here, or my plants are dying because it's winter in Finland, I offer some there. But I always make it a point to drink some of my own, if not all of it. And I know that the day will come sooner. It's not a far away day for me, being 44 and having started bleeding since I was 9, that I will no longer have access to my blood. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to miss an opportunity. I don't want to miss an opportunity, because when I don't have that anymore, I will miss it. And I know that. So for me, it's a very special occasion. What are some of the benefits? Oh, okay. Actually, a little bit more on the practicalities. Doesn't matter how long your moon cup has been in. No. As the instructions on the menstrual cup say, I think it's 8 hours maximum for the menstrual cup to stay in, and you should change it or rinse it out in between every 8 hours maximum. So I have gone that long, and I have drank my blood, and I've not gotten sick. There's nothing that's happened. What about blood clots? So you can do 2 things. One is you can close your teeth like that and go like this, and then the blood clots don't come through. Depends on how spacious your teeth are. Or you can have like a sifter, like the tea for like leaves, or some kind of this kind of sifter that's quite, the mesh is quite tight, and you can pour it through. The bloods remain on, the clots remain above, the liquid comes through. There you go, practical. So yeah, it's not suggested to drink the blood clots or the very kind of browny, the brown, if your menstrual blood in the beginning has a lot of brown, or at the end has a lot of brown, more kind of dry. Yeah, so you want to go for the liquid. You want to go for the blood, basically. So benefits. Well, many. Since I started drinking my blood, cramps reduced significantly. Food cravings, almost none. As soon as I've drank, like this is the way I say it. I'm like, these are my hungry days before I start bleeding. I'm like, I can eat like twice what my husband eats. These are my hungry days. I'm like an animal, like, feed me. And then as soon as I have my first cup of blood, then I could even fast sometimes. Like, I need very little food because it has all those nutrients and minerals that my body is actually craving for because it's releasing it. But I just take them back in. There we go. So food cravings, emotions, mood swings. I was never a big mood swing person, but I have heard from others that those are reduced. Also, I have heard from others, I've never had a very long period myself. I generally have a 2-day period, bleeding, part of my menstrual cycle. It's been always since I was young, 3 days, 2 days. So that's never been my personal challenge, but for those who have over 5 days, 7 days of bleeding, I have heard that this does reduce the amount of blood, the duration. I don't know about the amount, but the duration. So there are physical benefits. And then again, that this is the most sacred thing I have, the most sacred offering that comes from me. And of course I'm going to drink it, in addition to whatever other things that I've listed that you want to do with it. But of course I'm going to drink it. And not only that, but it's for the Taoists, for more Eastern traditions, this represents kind of like the semen, which is the way a woman loses life force energy. This is not to say that we should not bleed, but if you find yourself very exhausted and very drained and so forth, drinking your blood will probably help with that. So yes, there are physical benefits and also very much energetic benefits. Let me just see if there's anything else to say. Yeah, the baby steps. So I've had women ask me, okay, so then discerning, what do I do? Like, you just listed 10 things. Like, what do I do? I don't even know where to start. What do I do? I'm just used to using it, just flushing it basically, or whatever. Listen to yourself. Maybe you need it, or maybe a plant needs it, or maybe you want to experiment with ritual, or maybe you want to make an offering. Just listen and explore. And if it starts to feel like overwhelming, just or make an art piece, and it just starts to feel overwhelming, then just, yeah, a 5-year-old, play with it, enjoy it while you can. And if you have already completed with your menstrual cycle, or if you're in a man's body, how do you align? This is the second question I get often. How do I align? Or I have irregular periods, bleedings. How do I align? You align with a new moon. So when is it time to do those rituals, or to drink the blood, or to offer, or to whatever? It's when you bleed. But if you don't bleed, or you don't have regular bleed, then align with the new moon. That is the shedding. That is the letting go of the old, of what hasn't been lived. Well, I went through that already before. And then what happens after the new moon, what the new moon opens for us, is new moon, new beginnings. So what am I opening up to? And so you can do rituals around that, or have that in your presence, in your consciousness. So that's the second most common question. When and what I should do. And again, I remind you about the discernment of how you use it, when you use it, with whom you use it. Right now can get very exciting because you're given full permission to honor your blood and take away all the shame or any hidden secrecy stuff around it. And this is something that those in men's bodies can support us with, those in women's bodies. I know when I first started to hear about these practices, so basically anything other than just using a tampon or flushing your blood down the toilet, I was angry. Yeah, I was very angry. I was pissed. I felt lied to. And then I went through a grieving because I had already spent, I don't know, whatever, 25 years or more bleeding 12 times a month for that long, never having any clue about the sacredness of my blood and about its power, and just feeling that it was a burden or something that I need to hide or something that I just need to get over with. I had no way of it. I didn't know to explain it to my partners. I just felt so cheated. Yeah, I felt really, really cheated. So when I first started to share this with those in women's bodies, the women's only groups that I was holding, I was scared. I was scared because there's so much in society that says, you know, this is way too shocking, or this is way too out there. And then I heard back from these women a year later, some of these women sharing with me how their lives had changed because of this, of knowing this. And I knew that the time has come. Really, it's enough. It's really enough of so many generations being cheated, those in men's and women's bodies. And so my dream and my wish is that our daughters and granddaughters, our sons and grandsons, don't grow up in a world of this illusion that our menstrual blood is dirty, that our menstrual blood or is just something that you don't even consider. I want to live in a world where we reclaim that, those in men's and women's bodies together, just like we reclaim the sacredness of semen. I want to live in a world where this isn't something that's a burden. And I want to live in a world where these energies are revered in each other, in human beings, in the planet, on the earth. So if you have access to young boys and girls or young women and men, please let them know in an age-appropriate way. We can't go on with business as usual. None of us can afford to do that anymore. So, in case any of you have been watching, in men's bodies or women's bodies, feel cheated, feel angry, feel sad, grief around the time wasted or the time spent believing other things, not knowing, it's not too late. And even if you have completed with your cycle and you're in a woman's body, it's not too late. Timo, my partner, when we met, he had not had sex with his previous partners when they would be bleeding. Like, that was a no-go place. That was nasty for him. That was like dirty. That was just like avoidable. But because I honor my blood the way I do, he couldn't see it any other way. And so he started to also taste and drink and be able to have oral sex with me and be able, if I'm bleeding and penetration and everything. So we have a long ways to go as in terms of humanity, which everyone on this call is not a representative sample perhaps, but there's a lot we can do. we can start already. So the reason why I wanted to make this available to everyone, open to everyone, is because this is what everybody needs to know. And please share it. Please let others know. Please start playing with it. Please start exploring it. Yeah, and just to say that I had actually recorded this video as a, just recording with nobody about a month ago, and I had done sound tests and everything, and then I played it. I went on for 45 minutes as a video in service, and there was no audio. So I said, okay, I'll do a second take. So again, I tested audio, visual, everything. I went for 45 minutes. Again, no audio. And I was like, really? Like, what's this karma? Seriously, like, this is how difficult it is to get over it and get this important message out there? Okay. So I did it a third time. I remember that day I sat in front of the phone recording for over 3 hours total. Back to back. Same thing to get it out there. And finally, there was audio. But by the end of that, I decided, no, I want to do it live. I want to do it where people can share their experiences and where people can ask questions and where there's a connection. I want to do it live. So I never posted those videos, the last one that had audio. But yeah, so for me, it was something I was afraid to share in groups, and then something that there was obviously something karmic there around this theme for me to be able to bring it out publicly. So finally, on this new moon of Gemini, May 21st, 2020, I'm grateful to all of you who have spent your hour and a half with me, with us. There are 150 some people, those in men's bodies and women's bodies. Yeah, holding this with me. So I'm super, super grateful. So it says, do you also drink the ligaments and membranes and stuff? Well, different people bleed different bodies bleed differently. So for me, it's basically, aside from blood clots, it's blood. There's some white sometimes that accumulates on the rim here. And so I don't drink that. I just kind of wipe that off. But other than that, for me, it's blood, it's liquid. So I do drink that. And if you're concerned, and again, the guidance is to drink the liquid blood. That's what you want to connect with when you're ingesting. Otherwise, for your elixir, you can use all of it. Sure, absolutely. Anointment with blood semen combined, drinking a mixture of it too. Is that an invitation? It is now. Yes, it is an invitation, and that's a very powerful process to do with your partner. It's a very connective ritual. So just to have the discernment around who you would want to do that with, and it's a union of your most material, creative, sacred bodies. So yes. I learned that some motorcycle gangs see consuming women's blood as a rite of passage. There has been examples of it being used black magic kind of way. So that's not at all what I'm talking about here. So one way of reclaiming the sacredness is by us doing it with loving presence and with our intention, so that those are not like Dracula, motorcycle gangs, sex ritual, blood magic kind of stuff that this is associated with. That it's associated with being normal. Okay. Raw cake. You intuitively did that. Smells like an ocean to you. Wonderful. So it says here, everything that comes out of the body is what the body is rejecting. It's nature that is deciding to let it flow out, and anything can be done with it. Sure, create art, make connections outside. I don't have a disgust towards drinking it. Right? So it's not that your body's rejecting it. So just to be aware of the word rejecting. It's not that your body's rejecting it. It's just it wasn't used in the way it was meant to be used for housing a baby, right? For being the nest for a baby. So it wasn't used in that way, but it's still life-affirming, life-giving. So then what do I do with this creative potential powerhouse that I have? Yes, exactly. Okay, lots of blood cake situations here. This is very exciting. Honey, milk, cinnamon. Yeah. Okay, try that. Cool. All right. I've never tried any mix. I've always done it straight, neat. A purist in many ways. So the amount, all of it. Men can drink from a pussy or yoni directly. Yeah. It's a little bit, it's not the same as, when you're doing like this versus licking around, but yes. And then you can kiss him and you can get it right back in your own mouth. How long would the elixir stay? If it's half and half, then years. Yeah. But if you keep offering it, then you'll probably exhaust it before its vintage state. And I don't have an answer to how many years, but years, if it's really half and half. Because you will not have periods anymore. Yeah, and you can also freeze blood. So that is done. Stem cells, the placenta after birth sometimes is put into pieces and frozen and used homeopathically for the child as it's growing up and has some illnesses. So blood can be frozen and will last longer than if it's not frozen. Okay, so there's a sharing. I used to have a period of 7 days after giving up any birth control and started drinking my blood. Menstruating is almost painless and it lasts only 2 days. Wow. All right, I didn't know that. I know who you are. I didn't know that. Wow. It's great to hear. It's not that there's anything wrong with 7 days, but that can be exhausting. That's a lot of, so if you're drinking it, then you just keep replenishing and you're in sacred reciprocity with yourself. So, and that's great that you're also painless because we're not meant to be in pain. Like, that's not a standard. What is the cycle of the woman was very intense and dense, and that cleansing of it came through the menstruation. Is it still good to drink it? Yes. Or is it invading the unclean parts of the woman's cycle whose blood came from, and therefore her going too much into her process? So this is a common question also. Yes. So if you've been going through some release or some painful things emotionally, still, if you think about it, if you were pregnant, literally, that blood would be feeding your child and you wouldn't be questioning this. Usually the best this body has to offer will go to that zygote, that fetus that's growing in our wombs. The best. Nature would not do it any other way because its interest is in the survival of the species. So it doesn't interfere with its potency on the physical level. It doesn't, everything is energy. And so of course it might have other energies. If you don't feel comfortable, it's really your call. If you don't feel comfortable, then make the offering. Offer it to your plant. Offer it back to earth to be recycled, as our bodies will with our last breath. Yeah. How to connect blood if you are a free bleeder. Right, so you can just, if you're squatting or sitting over, you can spend some time, sitting over a receptacle, like some kind of bowl or something, and just squatting there, and you can accumulate it that way, but you'll have to spend some time put. Yeah. There's someone in a man's body sharing that my girlfriend had problems with her hormones. She bleeds all too much, like constantly for 2 months already. Any tips on what she can do to help? If she starts drinking her blood, that might regulate. I have heard, like I said, my or maybe I didn't say this, my periods, my bleeding cycles have been very consistent, like clockwork, for most of my life. So it's not something I have personal experience with, but for sure that I've heard from other women who had irregular cycles, that when they started to drink their blood, that it started to come into more of a regular cycle. So this could help her. Try it out. So if you bleed on full moon, no problem. Okay, thank you for bringing that up, because I was like, oh, there's some comments about bleeding on full moon. And I'm like, what? Why are these comments? Okay, so there's several of you who bleed around full moon. Perfectly fine. Your body's wisdom is what you want to follow. So there's not like, if you're not bleeding on the new moon, then there's something wrong with you, and your body's out of alignment with the cosmic powers. You can relax around that. It's just that the new moon is associated with the bleeding because of the energies involved and the going in and the darkest nights, and that's when there's more stillness. Yeah, and the full moon is more yang and dogs howling and sea waters, turbulence, and it's more yang, more summer. Yeah, so it's got a different energy, planetarily speaking, but it's perfectly fine if you bleed with the full moon. And it is said that if you bleed with the new moon and ovulate with the full moon, then perhaps your body wants to procreate, get pregnant. And if it's in reverse, then maybe it doesn't, and it wants to use its energy some other way. And there might be some of you who bleed in the quarter moon, and some of you who don't have a 28-day cycle. You have a 30-day cycle, a 35-day cycle, or a 20-day cycle, or whatever it is. It's okay. No worries. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to switch it. You don't have to shift it. Trust your body's wisdom. I love my attunement. I always wake up a few seconds before you start bleeding. Amazing. Okay. Does the sperm and blood connection ritualized an energetic super bond? Yes. Exclamation point, yes. Or do you use it in a way of contraception? Not that I know of. I do not know that this would prevent pregnancy in any way. But super bond, yes. So how long does the connection last? I don't know. I think it's just kind of there, and I guess it fades, or you can, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go into cord cutting and things like that in this seminar, in this masterclass. But obviously, that connection was still there, and it had been a few years for me. So I would guess years, if not many years or decades, that connection is there. And so you just want to have discernment. You want to be wise about how you use your blood. So it is actually quite weird that it's more okay for women to drink semen during sex than her own blood, right? So this is an example I use in my women's groups, that when the faces start doing this when I say drink the blood, then I say, okay, how many of you have ever drank semen, or at least tasted it? We're okay with it, relatively speaking. Yeah. So how is it okay that it's not your own juice, but your own fluids, your own juice, your own nectar? It's not okay. Yeah. Vulnerability makes us strong. Yes, it does. I might have menopause in a few years. I'm 46. I feel sad about not knowing. Yes, and it's not too late. Yeah, feel the sadness, feel the grief, and let that be the reason why you don't let other young women not know, or other older women not know, or other men not know. Absolutely. Let that grief and that anger steer you in a positive or useful way, that we don't any longer have to live this way of not knowing, and like I say, I feel cheated and lied to. So I received this information straight from creation and offered it to my feminine students at retreats, and in the beginning they were also shocked, but I kept on. So good to hear it's common. Yes, hi Luna. Wonderful. Okay. So your bleeding started today, was waiting for this. Great. Books around the menstrual culture. So I can highly recommend the grandmother of our menstrual culture, or the revival of menstrual cycle culture. Her name escapes me right now. Miranda Gray. Miranda Gray, she's UK-based woman, and she has 2 books. One is Moon Cycles, or Red Moon, I think, and then another one, Optimized Woman, Optimal Woman, something like that. Miranda Gray, that's her name, if you look that up. And she's got amazing stuff. So start there, and I'm sure there's tons more, which right now I don't remember. So is it enjoyable to have sex during bleeding? Well, is it enjoyable to you? If it's enjoyable to me, it doesn't make it enjoyable to you. So it's all for you to know that yes, you can. Yes, it can be enjoyed, but it doesn't mean you're going to enjoy it. Or if you enjoy it today, it doesn't mean you're going to enjoy it tomorrow. So listen to your body, listen to your body's wisdom, let it guide you. Okay, I'm ready to give up all the shame around this. Thank you, Taki'h. It was powerful. Thank you. I use a strainer. Okay, here we go. Okay, somebody who was in my women's groups and got this information. I use a strainer to separate the ligaments and anything that isn't liquid blood. I then drink the liquid blood and give the other parts to a plant. Yeah, and you can water it down and offer it. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Nothing wasted. I don't know about brands on moon cups. I only know the brand that I use, and the reason I bought it is because it's made in Finland. So I don't connect to drinking it and to the intent into that, but I love so much the offering back to nature, which seems in a wonderful flow and respect. Beautiful. Great. So stick with that and do it. So is there a diet to watch of your drinking your blood? So I think this means, like, is there like things we should eat or not eat if you're going to be drinking your blood? Well, I eat what I feel is healthy for me, whether I'd be drinking my blood, whether I still would be menstruating or not. So question that. And then I do know that when I was trying to get pregnant, I was taking supplements because I was already in my 40s. And I know that the blood then had so much of the supplements in it, and I was like, whoa, it tasted so differently and smelled so differently. So what you eat probably does affect, for sure does affect the nutrients, minerals. I don't eat meat, so I don't know what blood of someone who eats meat, what that would taste like or smell like. Everybody's individual. Okay, there's some references here and we can write those down. We'll save the chat, the names of books and authors. Great. Discover the magic of your menstrual cycle and awaken the feminine path to power. Pope Alexandra, Wild Power. Okay, Arina is the author of Wild Power. Okay. Okay, so I think that's probably The Revolution Will Be Bloody. Was recently released by Stasha Washburn. Yes, it's okay to bleed every 30 or 35 days. Absolutely, that's okay. What I was told by a gynecologist was that it's normal. Under 21 starts to get too little, but yeah. And I don't remember, over 36 or something. Starts to get maybe a little spacious, but what is normal for your body is normal for your body. Okay, the health benefits of drinking semen. Okay, I won't go there. Yes, you're looking forward to your next blood. Wonderful. Okay. Oh, there's some beautiful comments here. They say 1 drop of semen has the power of 100 blood drops. Imagine the nectar of women's menstrual blood combined with semen. It's solar and moon energy together. From someone in a man's body. It's someone I know who's in my groups, her partner. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. It's exactly that. The Woman Code by Elisa Vita is also one of the books. I feel ashamed of using painkillers, but sometimes I don't have the courage and or energy for my screaming and rolling on the floor, menstrual pain. So I will do some rituals and start drinking my blood. Yes, beautiful. It is very natural when I plan or get to meet my partner, I'm on my periods if it's divinely planned. I remember feeling an intuitive discomfort growing up when the blood was when the blood was supposed to be thrown. Too bad that formal education doesn't share these ideas yet. So I don't know if drinking your blood can boost fertility or conceiving. I have no data on that. So I just want to say, for those who have been watching, thank you. We are definitely out of time. I gotta go now. Thank you for staying this far, this long. This is for everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.